Good to go. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's Sharmin again from Wits Sport. I'm here today with some of the staff members from Pretoria Boys High. I've got Mike Smuts, who's the deputy headmaster at Pretoria Boys High. He's also a senior maths teacher on the staff. He's in charge, or he's the director of extramurals, as well as his teaching load. I've got Paul Anthony, former. He's actually a Pretoria Boys High All Boy, former Sharks Super Rugby coach, under 19, under 21 Blue Bulls coach, and he's the current director of rugby at Boys High at the moment. I've got Ryan Anderson, who's also known as Oji to the hockey community, hockey and cricket community. Oji is the current director of hockey at Pretoria Boys High, done some magic stuff over the last couple of years, which includes an upgrade of their hockey facility, but I'm sure you'll share some of those details with us shortly. And I've also got Michael Dick, who is the Director of Sport at Wits University. Guys, welcome. Thanks very much for accepting this invitation to chat, just chat sport, hockey and rugby specific during this lockdown period, during this pandemic. And it's going to be really interesting to get some of the views from some of you guys of what's been happening in Pretoria and Boys High in particular. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, this pandemic came as a shock to all of us, and I'm sure it started with a little bit of panic at school level, especially from an academic point of view. Really in a part of the year that's become a little bit challenging for all of us, I think. If you can just maybe share with us, how this pandemic has affected Pretoria boys from an academic point of view. You guys are obviously one of the biggest boys' school, if not the biggest boys' school in the country, maybe even in Africa. I'm not sure. From a hostel point of view, lots of boys in the hostel, and then obviously affecting sport and culture in a big way as well. How has it affected you guys, Mike?
Thanks, Sharmin. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes, the timing was actually good in terms of we've had a hectic first term. January was long, February even longer, and March came just at the end of our academic cycle. So we finished all our academic requirements in terms of assessments and so on. So that was good in terms of the timing. Not that timing can ever be good for something like this. But the break actually came at a good time, and that was also the message to the boys as we sent them off, was to go, and you deserve a holiday. Go home, go and relax, don't stress about it. We'll see how this thing pans out, and then we'll take it from there. So the last 2 days or so of the term before the staff went home, also in our different departments, we put together a few task teams in every department. We look after each different grade and put worksheets together, revision worksheets, nothing new, that we could, if it happens as it's happening at the moment on the online platforms, we can post revision worksheets for the boys so that they can go and do what they have to do. So currently at the moment, the online platform that we are using is Google Classroom at Pretoria Boys High. And we are actually not posting any new work yet. The instruction to the academic staff is currently to start after Easter. After Easter, next Monday, Tuesday, we will start posting videos of the different staff teaching a lesson, and then that with extra homework and so on. But we've got to be careful. We don't want to overload the boys. The boys are dealing with this brand new. I don't think any of us have gone through something like this before. There's the emotional component as well. We've got to look after the boys, but we want to, some of them are a bit nervous. Some of the parents are nervous. So therefore we are posting work on the academic, on the platforms, so that the boys can start working from next week onwards. And then we'll see how this pans out. We don't know when we're going to come back. The longer we stay away from school, the more we will put stuff on this online platform. But it's also important for us not to overload the boys. We have a lot of challenges in terms of connectivity. Boys who live in different areas don't all have access to internet. And some of them do have, in terms of devices, one laptop, one phone maybe per household. Data is expensive. You don't want to do a lot of streaming. That's quite expensive as well. It takes up a lot of data. So in terms of the academic program, we are very, very positive. It's a new challenge. It's scary, but exciting times for us as staff. None of us had training in online teaching, and we are going to try our best. And I think that's the most important thing. The boys can also see we are human. We're trying our best, and I think the most important thing about the online teaching that will happen from next week onwards from our side is just to connect with the boys. We don't have that social interaction now for the past 3-4 weeks now. Boys need it. The parents need us to have good contact and interaction with their boys, and as a staff as well. It's as I said, it's scary but exciting times. In terms of the boarding houses, the hostels they're all empty. Obviously, everyone has been sent home. We do have staff living on the estates who are living in the boarding houses. They're still there. They don't. That's their prime residence. They've got nowhere else to go. So we actually have at Boys Eye, we actually have between 80 and about 100 people living on the estate. We're all under lockdown. They've got a nice big estate, but yeah. So we do have people on the estate, but the boarding houses are empty. I know schoolboys in the boarding houses, and it will be a challenge when we come back. We don't expect to change, to come from 0 to hero, and the capacity of the boarding houses might be a challenge for us. We don't know if we can fill the boarding houses immediately, so that's a question that we will deal with, and a challenge that we will deal with as we come back. But yeah, and then obviously no sport, no cultural activities. So that's where we are from a school's point of view. Interesting times, but we want to be positive. As we've discussed before, there's a lot of negativity out there, and there are some challenges out there with the economy and people at their homes. But we want to change that narrative and be positive and be encouraging. When we talk to the boys and to the staff members and the community, the parents, that there's a lot of opportunity that is presenting itself here, and we need to embrace it and see if we can be the leaders in paving a way forward here. But that's the feedback from our side.
Thanks very much for that, Mike. I think just from chatting to some of the other schools, I think a lot of the schools are sort of working along the same sort of idea, same sort of plan. Really interesting for me that the schools feel safe enough to maybe just revise a little bit of work during this time and not start any new work. But interesting to say that you're going to look to start some new work after the Easter break, or after the Easter weekend. And yeah, I mean, good luck with that, and hopefully it goes well. Yeah, the big word I picked up, from what you said there is just try and stay connected. And I think as a sportsman or as a sports coach myself, that's probably been the biggest challenge for us over the last last 10 days or so. Oji, I'm going to bring you in here. As the director of hockey at Pretoria Boys Eye, and I know you coached the first team last year, and you can just chat a little bit about the changes with your setup. But what have you guys done to stay connected, and what's been happening with the Boys Eye hockey program over this last sort of 12 days or so?
Yeah, Sharmin, as I said, this is the first year that I've actually stepped down from coaching the first side to look after the primary role as a director of hockey. So it's an exciting role for me, and to connect with all levels, to connect and have that opportunity to connect with coaches. You'll know when you're in that hot seat, your time is mainly spent with the first team, and to an extent you neglect everybody else. So this year was going to be a very exciting year. So it obviously we managed to get a bit of hockey in the beginning. We obviously had the refurbishment of the new Boys Eye turf, which we had an official opening on the 9th of March, where we had 3 old boys sides playing against 3 Boys Eye sides. And it was actually quite nice that the first team for this year of 2020, when they were in grade 8 in 2016, that group of first team players that were in 2016, that whole side managed to put themselves back together, and they came back to play the main game. So that was just over a month ago that we had that fixture, which opened the new turf. Then obviously we had the Pretoria Cup, which is a new kind of invention in Pretoria, which was featured for under 16 as well as under 18. And that was played just before we kind of went on this kind of lockdown, the 12th, 13th, 14th of March, which basically resembles the Aiken Cup in Joburg. So it's the first time ever that that was being played in Pretoria, and it was a huge success. The senior division was at Pretoria Boys, and the under 16 division was hosted at St Albans, with the finals days being obviously completed at Boys High for both age groups. So we've had a bit of hockey. Obviously, as you would have known at your time at Westville, when the lockdown happened was the start of all the Nomads festivals. So various Nomads festivals around the country, and those are your most prestigious schoolboy hockey festivals that have been around for years and years and years. So we were due to host the under 16 Nomads. The first team Nomads festival was going to be down at Grey High School in Port Elizabeth. Uppies were having a centenary because it's their 100th anniversary this year, so we were actually going to take part in that festival, as well as Hilton were hosting the under 14 festival. So yeah, Nomads festivals from a hockey point of view are the pinnacle. So yeah, boys' parents were hugely disappointed that those festivals aren't taking place. And I mean, you would have seen on social media a lot of the hockey fraternity, a lot of guys kind of mourning today, saying that everyone should be getting ready to go to Easter festivals, which would be kicking off tomorrow. And from a hockey point of view, Boys Eye were going to go to Grey PE to their Easter festival for the first time ever, which was exciting. Then yeah, staying in touch with boys, staying in touch with hockey staff. We obviously, as Paul said, we run about 24 hockey sides at Boys High. We rely heavily on student coaches, which are, a lot of them are old boys, a lot of them are obviously students at the university. So we obviously, I'm in touch with them on a weekly basis. We follow the Boys High coaching manual, and there's a lot of online stuff that I obviously send through to them, video clips. We use Enhanced Sports that does all our video analysis, coding of games. So with the little bit of hockey that we have had this year, I've been able to share a lot of that footage of coded stuff with the Boys High hockey coaching staff, and obviously then entrusting them to obviously network with their respective sides and to keep interaction going, because the rest of the hockey community at Boys High, I think we had about a week of trials and stuff. So teams were just starting to get organized when obviously everything went into a lockdown. So yeah, I'm very, very privileged and lucky the fact that we have about 8 or 9 full-time staff members on the Boys High hockey staff kind of community and family, and they've been terrific interaction with their respective sides, engaging with student coaches and so on. So at the moment, yeah, everything seems okay, but everyone's obviously itching to get back out there. A brand new AstroTurf that was obviously installed by Belgatex, and boys kind of watched this project unfold for 5-6 months, and then 3 weeks everything was locked up, and kind of just everyone's cannot wait to get back out there. So hopefully we can, with a lot of schoolboy fixtures that we play around the country, our exchanges against Maritzburg College, Hilton College, double headers against Cares, Jeppy. Hopefully at some point in the next couple of weeks we can get out there.
Thanks very much, Oji. Yeah, really exciting times, I think, for Boys High, and quite frustrating, that the season hasn't started for you guys yet. But also really interesting to say that you managed to get in some hockey, which is quite cool. I think it's more than I can speak for the schools in Johannesburg. Some of them played a few warm-up games, but definitely not a whole tournament over a weekend. And then also quite exciting that you guys have started the Pretoria Cup. I know you mentioned my time at Westville Boys High. I can tell you the Westville Pretoria Boys High fixture was probably one of the biggest, one of the highlights of our season, and purely because of the numbers that you speak about. I mean, you're talking about 24, 25 hockey teams. I know Paul mentioned earlier, just before we started the recording, he's got quite a few number of rugby teams. I think he said 33 odd rugby teams. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, hopefully you do manage to get out onto the pitch again. Paul, I'm going to jump to you now. If you can just maybe share with us, some of the plans you've put in place, it's a little bit of a change, obviously, from coaching Super Rugby and being involved with a franchise where the focus is purely on high performance, and the focus is, I guess, 100% focused on winning, because winning is really important, I think, at that level. But some of the changes that you've gone through, obviously, between the Bulls and the Sharks, and then, of course, now back at Pretoria Boys Eye, where you used to be a school teacher. If you can just share with us, what's been happening from a Boys Eye point of view, rugby-wise, and what do you think is going to happen after this lockdown from a rugby point of view?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. No, 100%, man. Yeah, thanks. It is a huge change. But having said that, I did teach for 25 years before I went to professional rugby for 11 years, and now I'm back again. And although things have changed, especially for me, having gained a lot being a Super Rugby, the schoolboys in essence stay exactly the same. They're absolutely fantastic to work with, and so are the staff members, the teachers. I mean, if you consider how hard they work in the classrooms, but they really put everything out there. Without them, you'd have no chance. I wouldn't have a chance. So my biggest drive was to motivate and to encourage the staff and to reward them as best as I could, and then to make the playing fields even, because my job essentially is to make sure that we are good from first team level right down to under 14 Fs and Gs. So, for example, this year, which is an amazing thing, we've had 152 grade 8s registered to play rugby, which is a phenomenal amount of boys. It's almost incomprehensible. We're looking at a GT, so it's crazy. So obviously it'll whittle down with injuries and with fallout as is natural. But it's comforting to know that we can comfortably select under 14, 15, 16 up from A to Fs, and from first teams up to 9ths, and possibly even beyond. So the challenge then, of course, Sean, was for me is to get everybody onto the same page and to have my eye on everybody. And last year was an experimental year for me, and I put a lot of stuff into place, trying to get a synergized shape attack from under 14s right to the first team, to try and synergize how we defend. So I wanted to put all that in place. And the biggest thing that I must say I picked up from Super Rugby, when you're a teacher, passion and those kind of things are kind of on the forefront of everything. And I was pretty much one of those coaches, passion coach, which is nothing wrong with. And then ironically, he's coming back now. Jake actually taught me a massive thing amongst the other coaches, that detail is massive. Detail in your planning and detail in execution is just so paramount to everything that you do. And we're trying to make that now a forefront of the coaching, and that's what I'm trying to extend to the coaches. So we talk less and we coach more, and the boys execute more, because everything comes in repetition. So this year I planned fantastically, so it was a big blow for me to see, not to see exactly how it's going to work out yet. It should have been in full flow, but we've kind of got everybody, and this is where I thought we hit the nail on the head, and I'm hoping it's going to work like that. Because you've got so many teams, what's happening is boys are tending to go home and get home by 7 o'clock in the evening, because you've got 2 sessions, which is really, really tough on the boys. So they're sitting at school from 7 to 6:30. So I devised a plan where we could split the fields, because we really, really blessed at Boys Eye to have this huge amount of rugby fields all surrounded by a central pavilion. So my whole mission is to put 4 teams on a field starting at 2:30, and including their gym sessions and their workouts, everybody is off field and home by 4:30. So that's what we planned, and it's been a bit of thinking through it, but I know it's going to work like a bomb. So, and the nicest thing about it all is that I can lay out the program. For example, if Tuesday is the defense day, from minute 1 we set off a siren. This is what I envisage, and the coaches have all got their program in front of them. For 5 minutes they'll do a certain drill. The siren goes off, they all rush in. They've got water bottles for every single team. We purchased a rack of water bottles for every team. Otherwise, they queue up at taps. You know what I mean? So they all rush in. The coach has 2 minutes. The siren goes again. They rush back. He starts his second block on his program. And so we work through the program. All the boys work together on the same stuff, which allows me to walk around, have a look at what we're doing, make sure everyone's on the same page. And we're all doing the same thing. from first team right down to under 14 E's and F's to a lesser extent, if you understand what I'm saying. But we're all on the same page. And without taking anything away from the coaches, because they have their own unique character. And then obviously, as I've said to them, if you come up with a brilliant, say, launch from a left-hand scrub, just for example, then bring it to me, and then we put it out there. And if we like it, we include that in our attack shape. So the whole thing is to grow the whole school from first down to the lowest team in the school. There is no lowest team, to the so-called lowest team in the school. We all just enjoy rugby, and the boys just come back and play rugby year in and year out. That's what my aim is, actually. And then obviously to improve. We'd like to start winning matches against Affies. You know, it doesn't help to beat their first team once every 10 years with the first team and no one else wins. We'd like to win all the way down. I think that's what the driving force is here.
Thanks for that, Paul. I think, you know, some really insightful words, and, you know, you really gave me goosebumps there when you start talking about 4 teams training on one field. It's definitely plans that we, you know, obviously we look to put in place at Westfield Boys when I was there in my time. And you're 100% on the money. It's definitely going to work. I mean, getting everyone down to the F and G team, sort of training and playing on the same level, you know, with the same sort of strategy and game plan, and all sort of training and talking the same sort of rugby language or hockey language for Oji, for that matter. You know, I can just share with you, you know, we had one hockey pitch, for example, at Westfield Boys High that we shared across 3 different schools. So you can imagine the game time or the training time that we had on the Astra. So for us to come to Boys High with 22, 23 hockey teams and compete and win games was a massive challenge. But the only way it worked was by having 70 kids on the pitch at the same time, you know, all in organized sessions. But yeah, really exciting to see, and I'm definitely looking forward to coming to Boys High to watch that Boys High Affies fixture. I'm sure it's going to be crazy if it happens this year.
Keep in mind, it's their 100th, and they're waiting for us. Their coach, Al Yaku, is actually a good mate of mine. So we're looking forward to that. And just while we're on that, the biggest challenge, of course, to keep schoolboys interested, Mike, you would know, is to make them play. And why I was a bit disappointed with this pandemic virus is because we had organized matches, like our 9th team was going to play 14 matches. So we had organized Wednesday fixtures against Acacia and Gerrit Maritz. So that's kind of going to fall apart at the moment. But the nice thing is we know that we can do it. We know that the surrounding schools are all really keen to do it. And then if I just, and I'll take off quickly and finish with this note. I mean, we've got the age group all linked up on WhatsApps. And you must see the videos the boys are creating on their training programs. Our conditioning coach, Mr. Stewart, Lawrence Stewart, sent out programs, and the boys are being unbelievable. I mean, my phone just goes on the whole day as they send in how they're training, what they're doing. So the boys are really excited, and they cannot wait for this winter season to start. And even if it's in 2 months later, I promise you, Sharmin, doesn't make a difference. We can fit in, and we can make a plan, and we'll play rugby. You know, simple as that.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, you know, talking about that Affies fixture. I mean, I can remember going to Affies for the first time and getting smashed. I mean, the lowest score was like in the 80s or 90s. And you know, for the first time last year, the Westfield lads won the first team rugby game. I can tell you, I had goosebumps the whole weekend, even though I wasn't a part of the staff. You know, I had the headmaster pointing me almost in tears on the phone.
I've lost you there, Sharmin.
Sorry, Moby. I'm gonna come to you. Yeah, if you just want to jump in, you got a few questions to ask the guys.
So thanks, Sharmin. Yes, guys, congratulations. I mean, yes, like Sharmin said, there's goosebumps. There's a few boxes there that you know that you kind of knows what you want to achieve. So to hear you speak about it is quite nice. Paul, why do you think you did have 152 grade 8 sign up for rugby? Just a mate of mine is also at a boys' school, and he's complaining that he's struggling to get one team at the grade 8s. You know, so why did you have so many? Is it the culture in the school? Is there a nice sporting culture?
Yeah, Mikey. I think it's a massive thing there. I think there are three things. First of all, the schools got a massive rugby and hockey culture, to be honest with you. You know, you're looking at 700 boys playing winter sports, you know, and I think all the sports throughout the school, be it basketball, soccer, rugby, tennis, squash, whatever, they're all very well driven. I think secondly, the World Cup is massive. Never take away the influence of Sirkavisi and the Springboks winning the World Cup. We'd be stupid not to take that into account. And then thirdly, it sounds crazy, but I hope Yaku and them aren't listening to those bit Bella, but if you beat Afis, it's got an incredible impact on the boys. You know, for them, it's a massive thing, you know, especially at that level. So I think all those things combined, and I think a lot of work put in over the years by all the staff prior to me getting there and the former directors of sport, I think it all accumulates in the end and snowballs. You know? And hopefully we can just keep the trend going. And lastly, I think, Mikey, you have to give the boys games. You know, it doesn't help to have 38 teams and the guys are playing 4 or 5 games a season. That is an absolute waste of time. They will never come back to the game sport again. So that's the biggest drive, actually, is to make sure that they are playing and that they're really enjoying themselves. And you know what I think, Mikey, just the last point here. I think because we play the game at Pretoria Boys, and it's always been like that, even when I was a schoolboy, winning is massive for us. But it's actually not the only thing, to be honest with you. Our point of departure is we really want the boys to get out there, grow, but enjoy themselves. And there's no pressure on them to have to, you know, win. There's no repercussions. It's just have a hell of a lot of fun and grow in the sport. And I think that goes for all the sports across the board at the sport, you know?
Yes, thanks, Paul. That's awesome. Tell me, and maybe Ryan as well, both of you. So when do you think you've had a good year? When are you successful? When do you go home thinking things are going well? Yeah, you know, we had a good space here. What are those things that make you? I mean, I know everybody will feel that way when you beat Office, but you know, that's not going to happen every week. You know, so what are the things that make you say, yeah, we've had a good year? Tick, box tick. Good season.
Ryan, take it. I'll pick up from you. I'll pick up from Ryan.
Yeah. Can you hear me there? I'm back. Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
I think if I talk from just from a hockey point of view, I think everyone nowadays looks at rankings. I mean, you look at social media and what's out there. And yeah, that's important, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think Paul kind of hit the nail on the head perfectly. He said, as long as you're fulfilling teams, and you're fulfilling lots of teams, you're fulfilling big numbers. You've got boys that are passionate about their sport. You've got boys that want to play a specific sport, be it cricket, be it hockey, be it rugby. Yes, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to have an unbeaten season. But at the end of the day, by the time the next season starts, and I'll be back in it with cricket at the start of middle of August, the winter season will be to an extent forgotten and everybody will be planning for 2021. So yes, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to be the best rugby school, the best cricket school, the best hockey school, be #1 ranking, and obviously want to be unbeaten, etc., etc. But I think at the end of the day, if you're creating a passion and a culture, and that's the only thing that you can do in this job that we're in at the moment in a school is to get boys to love and thrive in what they're doing and have passion for what they're doing, and to build a staff, a coaching group, a core of staff that want to be involved, that want to come down there every single Saturday. Mike Smuts can give you more information, but we have over 100 academic staff, and a lot of them, their focus is in the classroom. And to get those kind of staff interacting with boys out on the sports field, I think that is probably objective #1.
Yeah, Mike, yeah, Oji, I've never heard you call you Oji. Yeah, I'm obviously very much on the same page as he is. But for me, you have a choice. If you look at, are you all hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at schoolboy rugby as it is now, many schools opt for less teams. So they focus on on a handful of teams at each age group. And disregarding totally youngsters who want to play the sport. So they will have an A, B, and maybe a C team. And the C team effectively are there to bolster the B team, who will bolster the A team, because they want to win the competition. Then to compel matters worse, in my opinion, which to me this is all part of loop, is that you then go and fetch players from all over the country, regardless as to what grades they're in. I mean, I've seen schools bring boys in at grade 11 and grade 12. Now, I find that unbelievable. You know, there's no sense to me. To me, that is every single, and I'll say it categorically to anyone who cares to hear, that is losing. Because you're devastating young boys who have spent their entire careers at that school, have grown up with the ethos of that school, and then the boy's whole world is crushed because he's replaced in his grade 11 year or grade 12 year by a boy who comes in from who knows where, for whatever reason, to win a trophy. So winning for us, or for me, and I believe for Pretoria boys, if I had to go to the headmaster of Pretoria boys and say to him, look, it's going to make it so easy for me and so much better for the school if we only have 4 teams per age group and we get the best guys in, we'll win everything. But I'll get fired immediately. The win for us is to get as many boys to play sport as possible at the school, or to take a cultural activity. We want them to be involved fully, and we need to make sure that we coach every single boy in that school, no matter what team he plays for, and that every single boy has incredible pride in wearing his Pretoria Boys High jersey, whether it's the candy stripes of the first team, or the red socks of the hockey team, I don't know, or whatever, or just the normal Boys High shirt. There is no normal Boys High jersey. It's an honor to play for your school at any level. And the irony of the whole thing is that, and this is not pulling this out of the tree for the sake of doing it. The boy who plays under 14E has huge potential to play for the first team in the long run anyway, or to play for the second team, because they grow as the years go, as long as you're giving them the same exposure as the boys in the first team or in the A team. And that's where I think we need to be really, really on the money, is to make sure that all our coaches are on the same page, we're all driving the boys as hard as ever, and everyone's having fun. And that, for me, I go home happy. When I tell you, I went home so happy after the rugby trials, when I saw these hundreds of boys playing rugby, just hundreds, and the way they were climbing into each other was ridiculous. And then on the other side, just across the way from me, there are another hundreds of oaks playing hockey. If that's not fulfilling, then I don't know what is. That's what it's actually about.
Well, fantastic, I agree. And Paul, just to on the matter, the grade 11, 12 guys changing school, I almost wanted to be a law. You're not allowed to change school, because you know it affects us, because we can't recruit that guy, because his academics bombs out. You know, if you change schools in matric year, there's no way your academics stay in the same standard. So no matter how well your rugby go, we can't recruit you anyway. You know, so yeah, I find it ludicrous. I can't believe people. I can't believe parents even contemplate it. You know, I find it mind-boggling.
You know, Mikey, if you consider that what is school actually about, and I know Mike, Smuts, and myself always go on about that, essentially, it's to train yourself to go and work in the big world. Now, that's really what school's about. So the sports side of it is, excuse the pun, is academic, because you know very few of these guys are going to be making money out of rugby or hockey or whatever. And that's not to say you don't give them that opportunity to play at the highest level. Obviously, we want to give them that, and you know we can then have our John Smiths, which is fantastic. But cheapers, we've also got another 100,000 top civil engineers out there, and teachers for that matter, and you know what I mean. So you know you've got to get into the real world, and only so many guys can become springbacks. Well, you know, 30 in a year. You know what I mean? And parents have got to look beyond that and actually understand that school is about your boy doing the right thing. And the right thing is, if you're loving school, you don't leave the school because the first team coach didn't pick you for the first team, but the school down the road is going to pick you for the first team. Well, then, in my opinion, you teach your child everything that is wrong about life. And he's never going to learn to earn a position and to become a good citizen of the country. You know, he's going to be the guy who's walking out there now who's supposed to be locked down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I see it, you know.
That's correct.
You know, he's going to do whatever he feels like to suit him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. You know, and you know, I know. Are we finished now? What's happening?
No, we're still recording. I wanted to come across back to you again, Mike. You know, obviously, Boys Eye it's a beautiful campus. Have you guys got any big projects on the go? Any other big projects on the go?
At the moment, no. Look, as you've mentioned off air, you know, we've built a big hall and a media center over the past 5, 6, 7 years. We're still paying off on that. We've had the Astro done just finished that. And then there are no big projects at the moment. You know, as most schools, all of us in the country with load shedding and stuff, we have to look at our infrastructure, see how we can accommodate load shedding. We don't know for how long that's going to be. So we've got a few things lined up in terms of generators and whatnot, just to get the business side of school going during load shedding, writing exams and so on. But we've put that on hold. You know, this whole pandemic is a problem because we're not so sure about the kind of cash flow money that's going to come into the school with fee-paying parents. We've been very fortunate for many, many years that the parents of Boys Eye have always been amazing in terms of the paying their school fees, prioritizing that. You know, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. They have to pay, and they do. And we've been very, very blessed with that. But, you know, this pandemic has hit us hard. We don't know if it is going to affect us. So in terms of big projects, none except for possibly putting infrastructure out there to accommodate load shedding. As you might be aware, we're also getting a new headmaster starting in July. So we haven't started any new projects. When he arrives, we might revisit that and see what plans he has. But currently, in terms of physical projects, no, not that. But over the past couple of, as I've alluded to earlier, we have appointed directors of different sports to give sport the attention and the detail that it needs. You know, I remember the discussion when Paul probably won't mind me mentioning it in his interview. We had this discussion that a lot of the actual coaches who coach some of the top teams, and Ryan is in the same boat with hockey, are often HODs, deputies, people who have got a lot of responsibility at school and cannot necessarily do the required planning that needs to go into a competitive sports team, sports code for that, you know, and creating a blueprint and all of that, because there are so many other responsibilities. And I think that's where we've been lucky, where we have 4 different directors of sports and a head of sport overseeing the 4 of them as well, where it has helped our sport. And as I think it's like the Titanic, we're trying to turn it slowly but surely, and I think we are going in the right direction. But for me, I see that as a project, ongoing project, and to give the sport the necessary attention from the guys who have a little bit more time, but also the expertise to actually get us and send us in the right direction.
Yeah, exciting times ahead for Boys Eye. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've got a few things to say offline, but Oji, yeah, just to end the recording, probably the most important question I'm going to ask now to you: is Liverpool going to win the league this year?
To me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to watch Sky Sports News at the moment, but I think, yeah, they obviously deserve it. I mean, what are they? 23 points ahead or something like that. I'm not a Liverpool fan. My cousins in that were diehard Spurs fans, and so I'm a bit of a Spurs boy, and yeah, a Manchester United follower. I thought you'd enjoy that one.
Thanks very much.
But yeah, pleasure.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks very much for your time. Yeah, it's been great chatting to you guys, and yeah, I'll put this video together and obviously send it out to everyone. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Sean. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, guys.